This week we have stories from Aldi, who's serving up specially select wine, the Kroger Albertsons merger, and Sainsbury's. Welcome to Velocity Institute This Week. My name is Christopher Durham, and I'm the president of the Velocity Institute. This is our weekly look inside the world of retailer-owned brand news with a healthy dose of insights and opinions. Thanks for watching, and of course, don't forget to like and subscribe. Aldi US is launching a new premium wine collection under its specially selected retailer-owned brand, its private brand. Most of the bottles are priced under $10. The specially selected wine collection is the culmination of 40 years of experience Aldi has sourcing wine globally, partnering with more than 150 wineries from around the world. All 10 bottles were selected by Aldi from longtime partners in distinctive regions including Côte de Provence, the Yucco Valley, and Marlborough, as well as new partners from respected vineyards in Rioja and the Barossa Valley. The new collection joins the extensive Aldi wine assortments of more than 110 items. Wine Enthusiast has named 7 of Aldi's wines as Best Buys, with Aldi Peaks and Tide Chardonnay scoring 91 points among reviewers. If you haven't shopped Aldi for wine, you should really go walk through the store, buy a couple of bottles. They're doing a great job with it, both in the U.S. and internationally. The new specially selected wines will launch each season to complement the everyday collection and offer shoppers an opportunity to try new varietals from distinctive wine regions. They're bringing in something new and interesting and giving the shopper an opportunity to taste it. It's pretty exciting. Their director of national buying, Arlen Jajmi, said whether it's the perfect expression of what Napa Valley has to offer or an ancestral vineyard nestled in the south of France, the specially selected wine collection gives consumers a premium tasting experience without the additional cost. It's the promise of Aldi. Our second story, the Kroger Albertsons merger. They'll be selling brands and stores. Late last week, Kroger and Albertsons announced that they have entered a definitive agreement with C&S Wholesale Grocers. Let's talk about it a little bit. We're going to do a little bit of the press release, not the entire thing because it's long, but I want you to get the details. What they said is that the agreement will include the sale of select stores, banners, distribution centers, offices, and private brands in connection with their proposed merger, previously announced in October of 2022. The divestiture plan ensures no stores will close as a result of the merger, and that all frontline associates will remain employed, all existing collective bargaining agreements will continue, and associates will continue to receive healthcare and pension benefits. So who's C&S? They are a traditional wholesale grocery distributor. They operate a couple of different banners as grocery stores as well. So they're selling to everybody from mom and pops to small chains. They're moving products around the United States, and they do a great job at that. The stores that they operate are Grand Union, which they resurrected a few years ago. It was an old school A&P era grocery brand name, but it's a great name. It was nice to see it come back. And Piggly Wiggly, they own franchises and corporate-owned stores in the Midwest and Carolinas. The divestiture transaction includes 413 stores along with QFC, Mariano's, and Cars brand names, so the banners, the names on the fronts of the stores. Stores currently under these banners that are retained by Kroger will be rebannered into one of the retained Kroger or Albertsons company banners following the close of the transaction. So some stores will be renamed with one of the names that Kroger or Albertsons owns. In the 4 states where C&S will have the license to the Albertsons banner, Kroger will rebanner the retained stores following the close of the merger with Albertsons. The goal here is to not close stores, but simply to change the brand name on the front of the store. So Kroger will maintain the Albertsons banner in the remaining states. In addition, and here's where it gets interesting for us, Kroger will divest the 5 private brands Debbie Lilly Design, Primo Taglio, Open Nature, Ready Meals, and Waterfront Bistro. That's the press release. That's the details. Actually, there's a lot more details. If you'd like to go back and read it, I can leave the link in the description under the YouTube if you'd like. But let's talk about what those last couple of lines mean about the private brands and their potential implications for private brand, retailer-owned brand strategy moving forward. What does it look like after the merger? First thing I'll start with that is we have no insider information This is all speculation based off of experience in the industry. The next thing we'll talk about, though, is this is a conversation about brands, and it's a conversation about what happens after the merger. So makes it interesting, but it's about brands, not SKUs, not products, not options for consumers. The changing of brand does not necessarily mean that there's more SKUs, less SKUs, the customers lose choice, there's more commitment, less commitment. It just means that they've got two giant portfolios of brands from Albertsons and Kroger that they have to reconcile in some way. And we'll talk about how they could possibly do that. Let's take a look. No matter the merger, there's only so many options. When there's a merger like this, you can go to the far left and leave them completely untouched. They continue to operate exactly as they have been, and life moves on day to day. Customers don't notice a difference. The employees don't notice a difference, and it moves on. There's a couple of challenges there. Number one, we already know that they're selling some of them, so nothing will be untouched. Number two, you don't get the same economies of scale if you don't find some places to buy the same stuff, to use the same brand. So there's some opportunities to be more profitable if you can evolve and change the portfolio. The far right is you flip everything to Kroger, which is possible. It happens all the time in mergers. The company essentially who wins, dominates, and their brands, their products are the ones that end up on shelf. Wouldn't shock me either. Typically, though, what happens is somewhere in the middle, and it's a hybrid. So they take the best of both worlds, the things that resonate with the consumers. They may leave some brands and products in certain regions where the customers really care about them and not use them in other regions. That wouldn't shock me either. The most recent example of this is from the 2014 acquisition of Harris Teeter by Kroger. Today, Harris Teeter branded products still on the store at the MBE level. You also see HT Traders branded products still on shelf. But slowly over the course of the last 9-10 years, they've begun to add in Simple Truth and their other brands such that the Kroger portfolio now has representation. We'll see where it goes over the next few years. The other thing that could happen is that the powers that be take the opportunity to say, we're going to find some hybrid space, we're going to find some Kroger-only space, whatever, and they use it to reinvent, to revolutionize, to do something completely different. They hang a hard left or a hard right. That's hard to see, but there's certainly some opportunities happening here. It doesn't happen that often in grocery. Really, the last time a portfolio has been dramatically reinvented and brands were blown up and so forth was in the Wakefern reinvention to Bowl and Basket and their portfolio of brands. Target's done it a number of times over the years. So anything is possible with a Kroger-Albertsons merger. The people running the show are pretty bright. I'm sure they're having this conversation as well. So you see the Kroger-owned brand portfolio. It reflects pretty much what the strategy is of private brand over the last 50 years, multiple tiers, specialty brands, some acquisitions in Home Chef and Murray's. We know Lovesome has already been announced it's going out. Then you see the Albertsons own brand portfolio, very similar brand portfolio, but there's a few things that are different. I've marked all the ones that C&S are getting, so Open Nature, Waterfront Bistro, Primo Taglio, Debbie Lilly, and Ready Meals. As we lay it out in the grid pattern that's so familiar to a lot of folks running private brands, you see these top three tiers and the categories across the top. Kroger on the left, Albertsons on the right. You really do see that three-tier strategy going on with private selections being in the top, that NBE plus, unique, interesting flavors, bringing innovation to the space. And they're doing a really great job of executing at product development and innovation. Stepping down, Kroger pretty much lives as the default brand in that national brand equivalent space. Great product, a little bit of innovation floating around here and there, but it's just consistently good grocery product. Then this next step down, the most recent brand they've launched, Smartway, is really that OPP value tier. I'm worried about the economy and Aldi and Lidl coming after me, so we're going to try and put it all together in one nice big bow and present it to the shopper. Albertsons over the last 2 or 3 years has gone through a consolidation of their brands such that their strategy 3 years ago looked like a lot of sub-brands of Signature. So Signature Select, Signature Farm, Signature Care, you name it. There was a lot of them. I'm not so sure customers cared, but it seemed to work internally. And they live at both the NBE Plus, that premium level, and the NBE mainstream level. And then Value Corner sits in the same space as Smartway. Not quite sure which one of those two brands is bigger. It would be interesting to know that. Stepping over, we have Organic, Natural, and Better For You. And honestly, there's some just amazing brands in this set. So Simple Truth, Kroger's now 10-year-old natural, organic, and Better For You brands. Depending on which number you believe, you're looking at a $3-4 billion brand, and I don't doubt it at all. It's very relevant in the space, and they've done a great job with it. On the Albertsons side, they don't know organics. So organics was the very first mega organic brand that honestly most grocers copied 20, 30 years ago. And it continues to do very well. The challenge of naming a brand O Organics is, or the opportunity is, its positioning is really tight. You know exactly what O Organics stands for. It's organics. It, however, leaves out a space for the other natural or better for you products. So along comes Open Nature a few years ago. The Kroger-Albertsons merger will result in the sale of Open Nature. In floral, so good category for grocery, but I don't know how brand-oriented it is. Kroger launched Bloomhouse, great-looking logo, nice design. And Albertsons has Debbie Lilly. Debbie Lilly will be exiting to C&S as well. In pet, Kroger has Abound and Pet Pride, and Open Nature and Signature Select played there for Albertsons. Safeway, Open Nature's going. Baby Comfort, Signature Care. It's a Signature Care being another one of those sub-brands of Signature. And Meal Solutions, Home Chef, obviously an acquisition that was very significant for Kroger a few years ago in that Meal Solutions space, and Albertsons Ready Meal, a generic name. And obviously a duplicated space. It will be going over to C&S. In deli, we see Primo Taglio and Albertsons going to C&S. Honestly, it's a nice brand, nice logo, but it clearly stood on top of the Kroger acquisition of Murray's Cheeses and some of the Kroger branded products, so it wasn't really necessary in the space. And deli, Murray's is a great New York City cheese brand, and they've done great things with it at Kroger. Nice stores within stores. In seafood, all of that stuff is living in Simple Truth and Kroger, and there's a lot of spaces that seafood can live. So there's plenty of options for it. So whether you see a brand here or not, they may be using one of those 3 tiers of brands to do something. And then Waterfront Bistro will transition to C&S as well. In dairy, Kroger owns Kroger, of course, and Albertsons owns Lucerne. This is an old school, traditional dairy ice cream brand. Honestly, people love it. They've done great with it. They have dairies. They have manufacturers. This may be one of the more valuable brands in the Albertsons portfolio. When we continue on to HBC, Simple Truth and Kroger live under the Kroger space, and Signature Care and Sparkling Waters with Simple Truth and Kroger under the Kroger space. Simple Truth having some interesting flavors that's been launched recently, and Albertsons having Soleil, which was redesigned and relaunched recently as well. There may be some other little brands floating about that are being consolidated or changed, but this is the bulk of what the portfolio looks like. The questions really that are left are more than are answered, which is no surprise. There's very little information in the press release, so we'll have to see what happens as we move forward, but we can certainly ask some of them. So what happens in this natural and organic space? Organics is a huge brand, well-respected. The Californians love it. Are you going to take it away and flip it out for Simple Truth? Open Nature goes away, but if Open Nature goes away, what happens to those branded products? Well, they could certainly become Simple Truth, and both Simple Truth and Organics could live together if they need it to, or it could all become Simple Truth. Remains to be seen. The nice thing is they have some great brands to play with. As we see it, the crown jewels are O Organics and Lucerne in the Albertsons Safeway brand portfolio. The question is, what will Kroger do with them? How will they best take advantage of these really great retailer-owned brands? Will they maintain them in their portfolio and continue to grow them? Will they become national brands? Will they maintain regional status? Will they honestly sell them? There's certainly precedent to sell brands like this. A&P sold 8 O'Clock Coffee for $107.5 million in 2004. Sears sold Craftsman for $900 million, what worked out to be probably more than $1 billion after all of the royalties and so forth were paid in 2017. So there's opportunities to do something with these brands, and it will be interesting to see what choices Kroger makes. And then there's the potential left turn. You've got Private Selection and Signature Select, both sitting in a remarkably similar space. They're pretty big brands, and they're those 90s, early 2000s generically named premium to NBE brands. So I like to say they put a lot of words into a spinner, pulled the lever, and 2 words came out: Private and Selection, Signature and Select. They unfortunately have very little capacity to have customers love the name, the brand. But what they do have is some great products and some great innovation. Maybe a new brand comes out of this, who knows? Then what happens to C&S Grocers? Let's take a look at what they're doing. So C&S has a very simple private brand portfolio. They own Best Yet, and they have since 1893. It's a very traditional private label. The design is adequate. The products are exactly what you'd expect if the list is a bit small. And then we have Piggly Wiggly, great grocery store brand, one of my favorite logos in the grocery business. Love to see it continue to grow. So they've got some marks that they continue to do, but as you see, really one brand in Best Yet isn't a portfolio of brands. It doesn't do everything that a modern grocer needs to do. And with 400 plus more stores, C&S is going to need some help. So it's nice to see them coming along. So what have they been doing since they don't own the brand? As a distributor, they have access to Topco brands, which fill in those gaps. Full Circle, Pure Harmony, Culinary Tours in that interesting, more premium innovation space, Tippy Toes and Baby, Top Care and HBC, and so forth. So lots of brands that can be played with, but they're not brands that C&S owns or controls. And then they also license IGA and IGA branded product for some of their retailers that they're distributing to. Open Nature has the potential to expand beyond just the natural and the better for you space to include organic. And it would be a great brand for them to really go head to head with organics, with Simple Truth, with Aldi's version, with Delhaize's version, and so on. Waterfront Bistro, it's hard to say where they go with that. It seems like fresh fish might be a challenge for them, but certainly in frozen it could be a great brand. Ready Mills and Debbie Lilly and Floral, not sure how much value those have there, but it's nice to have something in the portfolio. And Primo Taglio in deli could certainly be an interesting choice as they continue to expand out. And honestly, it seems like it could go into Italian if they really wanted it to. More questions and answers, more to come on this. I'm sure we'll have a lot of conversations about what happens with all of these brands. The long and the short of it is Kroger is going to do what's best for their business and best for their customer, and they have a lot of great tools at their disposal. Our final story this week, Sainsbury's switches from use by to best before date milk. British grocer Sainsbury's will be swapping use-by dates for best-before dates across its own brand milk. Now, in the States, there's often a sell-by date, so that complicates it even more. The move will affect 44 products in total, including fresh and organic milk sold across England, Scotland, and Wales, and will apply to over 730 million pints of milk sold by the retailer. Research has shown that milk is the third most wasted food in the UK. I'm sure it is in the US as well, with over 490 million pints thrown away each year, often because the milk has passed its use-by date. Sainsbury's switch to best before dates aims to prevent customers from pouring away pints that are still safe to consume, giving them more time to use up their milk at home. The retailer will encourage its customers to follow the Food Standards Agency guidance, which recommends using sensory cues to see if milk with a best before date has gone bad. For example, smell it. I tell my kids this all the time. Food will tell you what's going on with it. And it doesn't know how to read a calendar, so it doesn't magically go bad because there's a date there. This is milk. Open it. Smell it. Use your common sense and you'll know whether this is bad. This is a great move, and if it can eliminate some of the food waste out there, I'd love to see it go across all the retailer-owned brands around the world. We like to close out, of course, with the things that we're doing. So in the vein of sustainability from the last story, our Velocity Institute Sustainability Summit 2023 is coming up in a few weeks, September 26th through the 27th in Austin, Texas. If you do not already have your tickets, they're still available. The retailer tickets are completely free. The standard tickets are $995. If you wonder whether you're a retailer, the question is, do you actively work for a retailer today, whether it be online or in real life? Then you qualify for a free ticket. If you don't, you're a manufacturer, an agency, a broker, you name it, they're $995. So speakers will include Whole Foods, Walgreens, Misfit Markets, Meijer, Wayfair, Circana, Thrive Markets, as well as experts in their fields in the Recycling Partnership, Fair Trade, the Marine Stewardship Council, Toxic Free Future, and a lot of great sponsors, Club Coffee and Quad and MBD, Nature's Touch, and so forth. So we look forward to seeing you there. If you think sustainability doesn't matter, if it's not in your job title, it does. I assure you, nearly every major retailer has made commitments to being more sustainable, and they typically start with private brands. So whether it be the product or the packaging, there are things that we're going to talk about that will be important to your job and important to your shopper. Thanks so much for joining me for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to stay up to date with the world of retailer-owned brands, hit that subscribe button. For Velocity Institute This Week, I'm Christopher Durham.